Imagine a country with the most advanced weapons in the world, but in a panic because its grain warehouses have burned down. Israel's 15 million residents are at risk of starvation, and Benjamin Netanyahu is starting to lose his mind. Who's behind this? Is it really Iran's doing, and how can bread be scarier than missiles? You need to stick around to the end because this story will make you wonder who's really the hungriest. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to our channel, where we share inspiring and thought-provoking stories. But first, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to write a prayer in the comments so we can receive intercession on Judgment Day. Let's dive into the story. Brother, have you ever imagined living in a country where every day you wake up not thinking about work or love, but about what you're going to eat? Now picture this happening in Israel, a country that's usually in the news for, well, conflicts, rockets, and all that geopolitical drama that honestly makes your head spin but still trends. But this week, it's not about war, diplomacy, or Zionists. It's about the stomach. And when it comes to the stomach, people can be fiercer than cats fighting over a fish. Rumors say Israel's largest food warehouse went up in flames, and not just any fire. Word is, it was the work of Iranian agents. Crazy, right? One massive food warehouse, storing rice, wheat, and God knows what else, gone overnight, like an ex who vanishes when you fall for them. But the difference is, this could affect 15 million people. 15 million, bro. That's not just one hungry city. That's half the country. And guess who's freaking out the most? Yup, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, whose face often shows up in cigarette ads at WarTech. But this time, his face isn't stern or tough, it's worried. He looks like a guy who just got told he's 3 months behind on car payments. But before we dive into Bibi, yeah, that's what they call him, Bibi, not baby, let's backtrack a bit. Here's the deal, bro. This burned-down grain warehouse isn't some ordinary place, not like a rice storage that leaks when it rains. It's a high-tech, heavily guarded facility, equipped with sensors, thermal cameras, and they say capable of fending off missiles. But apparently, it couldn't fend off a matchstick lit by Iranian agents. It had a cool name, Sar Hakatan, which translates to Gates of Paradise. A bit much, but its role was massive. All the strategic food reserves were stored there. Wheat from Ukraine, rice from India, corn from somewhere else. Everything was there. And on one quiet night, while Israelis slept soundly, except those stressing over electricity bills, there was an explosion. Flames shot up, and in less than 4 hours, 80% of the food reserves were gone. The media blew up, but the Iranian media blew up even more. They subtly but sarcastically hinted, God teaches a lesson to those who trust too much in technology, but forget about people. Man, that's slick, right? Honestly, it got me thinking too. In a world of drones and cybersecurity, how could this happen? Iranian agents managed to sneak in and torch such a huge building. Were the guards sipping coffee? Or maybe it's just hearsay. All right, another conspiracy theory. People started getting jittery. Supermarkets ran out of stock. Folks began hoarding instant noodles. And when a country starts panic buying instant noodles, it's not on the brink of a crisis, it's already in one. The camera shows Benjamin Netanyahu's face. Usually, during a crisis, he appears on TV calm, confident, with a stylish expression. But this time, it's different. I watched the broadcast while sipping coffee. And honestly, his face looked like a man who just lost 2 vital things in life: food and the people's trust. He said, "We are seriously investigating this incident, but I can assure you, the people of Israel will have enough food." But sadly, people were already losing faith. Prices started skyrocketing in markets. People began bartering bread for milk, like the old days. And while the public racks their brains over how to eat, the political elite bickers in parliament. Who's to blame? Some point fingers at the Mossad for failing to prevent it. Others blame the agriculture minister for focusing too much on imports and neglecting local food security. But the wildest and kinda weird thing? One parliament member said, "This is divine punishment for too much injustice." Whoa, there's the religious angle in politics. Though, looking at their track record, it's not entirely off. Right now, Netanyahu's like he's sitting on straw with a lit match in his hand. One wrong move, and everything could go up in flames. Not just food, but public trust, international reputation, even his leadership. And you know, leaders who are visibly panicking tend to make weird decisions. We'll see what happens next. But one thing's for sure. A stomach crisis is always scarier than a weapons crisis, because an empty stomach can make a person do anything, even turn against their own country. If you think a food crisis is just a kitchen problem, you're dead wrong, bro. Because in today's Israel, the kitchen has moved to the streets. Picture people who usually cook at home now setting up communal kitchens on sidewalks, in city parks, even near bus stops. Not because it's cool, but because gas ran out, oil's expensive, and there's only enough rice for 2 spoonfuls. Insane, right? And know what's even crazier? People are openly blaming the government, not with hints, not with subtle Facebook posts. These are major protests. Signs read, "We eat dust, Auntie eats promises." God, it's weird but so spot on. Protests aren't just in Tel Aviv. They've spread to Haifa, Nazareth, even the outskirts of kibbutzim, where things are usually chill. People from all walks of life, Jews, Arabs, atheists, religious, are now speaking in one voice. We're hungry. I saw a video where a woman in the crowd shouted, "My kid asked, why's there no bread?" I told him, "Because your leaders are busy with wars, not growing wheat." Boom. Straight to the soul. You can see not just anger in people's eyes, but despair. And despair is the easiest fuel for a revolution. Scary, bro. Meanwhile, Netanyahu's government is like a leaky boat patched with duct tape. One minister resigned, another got accused of corruption, and a third fled abroad, scared of being blamed. Things are getting worse. Netanyahu finally gave a second address to the nation, but this time, only 20% of the population watched. The rest were in line for flour. I watched his speech while munching on crackers, because seeing hungry people made me dizzy too. The content was standard. "We're trying to arrange emergency supplies from our international partners. We won't let the people of Israel starve." But people are tired, bro. They don't want words. They want rice, bread, or at least canned sardines. And when basic needs aren't met, people can get meaner than the protesters of '88. One of the saddest moments was the mass looting of supermarkets. People were dragging carts like they were in a tug-of-war contest. Some grabbed pasta, others the last of the powdered milk for kids. The police were overwhelmed, and funny enough, some even joined the scuffle. Horrible. And know what's the most ironic part? Amid all this, the stocks of arms companies in Israel went up. How? Because every crisis in this region usually ends, you know? How? With a new war, an escalation, and the arms industry collapse. So sometimes I think maybe they're better at storing bullets than wheat. 3 weeks after the warehouse fires, international media started portraying Israel not as a strong military power, but as a country that failed at food logistics. From CNN to Al Jazeera, everyone covered how a country with the most advanced defense system couldn't protect its food warehouses. And this question reached Parliament. Opposition members started publicly bashing Netanyahu. "You can buy F-35 jets, but you can't secure bread for our kids." And yeah, those sharp criticisms started hitting the public. Hardline supporters began to waver. Many started asking, "What's the point of nationalism if your stomach's empty?" Netanyahu found himself in an even tighter spot. He started making promises again. Food subsidies, emergency food distribution, even asking neighboring countries for help. The irony? They're now asking for wheat from Arab countries they once called enemies. Meanwhile, Egypt sent 2 ships with flour as humanitarian aid. The public's reaction was mixed. Some cried from the gesture, others felt ashamed, and some tweeted, "We used to send rockets, now we're sending bread straight up. The world's really funny." At this stage, the food crisis turned into an identity crisis. Israel no longer looked like a strong country. In the world's eyes, they're now just one of many countries that are human too. They can starve, panic, make bad calls. And Netanyahu's looking thinner, either from a forced diet or acute stress. While the government's still caught up in pointless debates and trading empty promises, ordinary people are taking real action. I saw a viral video from Haifa. A street baker, selling at the market corner, suddenly set up a tent and started giving out free bread to anyone who came. Didn't ask about religion, didn't ask who you support. If you're hungry, you eat. This spread, bro, from one city to another. Farmers who used to hoard crops for sale are now giving them away. Locals set up makeshift food banks. Volunteers cook in open kitchens. Humanity is born from crisis. I can't forget the words of a young mother. We may have lost faith in the state, but not in people. Deep, bro. If you hear that while opening a pack of instant noodles, you might cry while stirring the seasoning. This is the real power of the people. Not in shouting or protests, but in solidarity. And, weirdly, this is what makes the government start reacting, because the more people help each other, the clearer it becomes that the state's failing its duties. In the end, the pressure came from within. 2 senior ministers resigned, and 1 cabinet spokesperson made a pretty touching statement. We were too busy with defense and forgot that stomachs need protecting too. Yeah, late. But at least they're starting to get it. By the 4th week of the crisis, the international community started wondering, will this be a turning point in Israel's history? Netanyahu, who usually never admits fault, finally showed up at a press conference. But this time, not in a fancy studio, not on a steel podium with a flag behind him. He was just sitting on a wooden chair and said in a quiet voice, "I apologize for all the delays, all the mistakes. We're rethinking the country's priorities." I froze watching it. Bibi apologized. It's like seeing a gorilla suddenly go vegan. But yeah, after the hunger storm, at least a breeze of change blew in. The government finally passed a food security law. The gist? Military spending was cut by 20% and redirected to local agriculture, subsidies for basic goods, and revitalizing national logistics warehouses. This move, though late, was met with approval, but people didn't clap right away. They're still on guard because, politicians' promises are like forks in a cheap outlet. They fall out if you don't watch them. But what's surprising is that some countries that were enemies until now started a dialogue. Iran, previously blamed for the fires, sent an open letter. "We don't want your people to starve. We're against your government, not your children's stomachs." A jab at the sorest spot. But see, the world's starting to realize that humanity's greatest enemy isn't other countries. It's our own hunger and greed. 2 months after the tragic events, things started calming down. But the scars remain. The warehouse that burned down is now a national monument. Not to remember technology or destruction, but to remind everyone that no matter how great a nation is, if its people's stomachs are empty, it's nothing. Schools started teaching not just war history, but food issues too. Kids are now planting tomatoes, corn, and sprouts in schoolyards. Imagine, a generation usually fed nationalist propaganda is now learning to understand soil, water, and seeds. It might sound odd, but that's where the future grows. And Netanyahu? After holding on for a few months, he finally announced his resignation with simple words. "I failed. It's time for a new generation to lead." The internet blew up instantly. Some felt relief, others were snarky, but most stayed quiet, because in times of change, sometimes you don't celebrate. You reflect. What's the point of power if the people suffer? What's security if you only guard walls, not tables? And in the end, thanks to this crisis, Israel not only saved its people from hunger, but also saved the soul of its nation. I vividly remember my dad saying when I was a kid, "A man can live without a president, but not without food." I laughed back then, thinking it was childish, that a kid cares more about PlayStation games than politics. But now, after following Israel's food crisis from start to finish, I realize those words are deeper than a well the government never built. A country seen as the strongest in the Middle East, with cutting-edge systems and world-class intelligence, can crumble from one weakness: food logistics. And not from 1,000 rockets, but from a small fire in a warehouse that wasn't watched closely enough. Netanyahu, known for his toughness, strategic thinking, and refusal to be wrong, was forced to surrender in the end. He learned the hard way that power over land means nothing compared to power over people's trust. Because when people are hungry, they don't care who has nuclear weapons. They just want to eat. It's that simple. But from this downfall came the most honest moment in the country's history. You see Arabs and Jews, who used to clash often, now cooking together in communal kitchens. You see farmers, who didn't want to plant because of high taxes, now forming cooperatives. You see kids who used to sing only military songs, now busy pulling weeds to plant tomatoes. It's wild, right? Sometimes destruction is the start of something human. I'm not saying this makes everything perfect. Not all wounds heal, not everyone forgives, but at least there's a collective realization that a state isn't just a flag, an army, or leaders. It's a shared table. If the table's empty, everything falls apart. And we, watching from afar, can learn from this. Because no matter who you are, whether you live in Jakarta, Gaza, Tel Aviv, or Chicago, your stomach is still your stomach. You can't trick it, delay it, or bribe it. I thought, we're all human, bro. Sometimes we're so busy chasing power that we forget the basics: food, drink, love, and feeling safe. What's the point of being a great country if its people suspect each other? What's the use of fancy parliament buildings if women have to line up for rice under a scorching sun? Sometimes we need a harsh reminder, like Israel, which only understood the value of food after 15 million of its people nearly starved. So, bro, from all this, I can only say one thing. If you can eat rice today, fry an egg, even if it's a bit burnt, be grateful. Because out there, even the strongest country can flip upside down just because the rice ran out. And to those busy running a country, remember, don't just sit in your chairs, watch your people's kitchen too. Because if the people are hungry, you won't sit easy anywhere. Not even in a palace. I'm out, bro. Hope this story didn't just entertain you but made you think. Because life isn't about who's stronger. It's about who can feed more. See you in the next wild story. Take care of your stomach, take care of your heart, and don't forget to stock up on more than one pack of instant noodles. Peace.